In this particular video, we're going to be dealing with what it is to have spiritual powers at the first degree level. And I'll identify the first degree level, of course, as consciousness on the earth plane. Keep watching. Okay, thank y'all for tuning in to this particular video. Now, this is a very important topic, of course, because what it deals with is what it means to have light. So in the book of Matthew, and I'll put it on the screen for you, it talks about how if thine eye be single, then thy whole body shall be full of light, right? But if the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? So how we want to look at this, of course, is if I was to draw a line like this and I was to put darkness here and what we know is light here, because both are actually light, but we'll get into that in a different video. But if someone was up here shining light down, and if someone was in darkness, the more you're in the darkness, the less and less and less you are able to actually see that light, and then it will get to the point to where the light just disappears altogether. So how we want to consciously look at that, of course, is when we have people that come into our life and everything like that, and they are trying to share light with you, light that brings you closer to the Most High, then that is the kind of light that we want to identify as being shining in the darkness. But it also talks about in other texts, and I'll link it, how it says that when the light came into the presence of the darkness comprehended it not, if you get what I'm saying. So in this particular video, what I want to talk about is what it means to have spiritual powers. So when I mention spiritual powers on the first degree level, what I'm mainly discussing, of course, is when you have the ability to animate something. You know, everything typically has a spirit, and it gives it the ability to have something animate. So what you want to be careful about is if you do obtain spiritual powers, which gives you the ability to animate and give focus to something. So like, for example, if you have reached this level through, it could be your reach, it could be your audience, it could be a talent, a skill, it could be something that has caused you to gain the ability to cause something else to animate. So you want to just make sure that you're not animating the darkness of this world, and you're animating the higher regions of righteousness. An example of animating darkness is basically being in a commercial where you're trying to encourage people to eat pepperoni pizza. Does that make sense? Because pepperoni is pork, and the law or the divine instructions tells us that we should not what? Eat that which is swine. Do you get what I'm saying? Or you're in the McDonald's commercial promoting that, animating McDonald's to the population, knowing that the food that possibly is being served there is not good for the people. Does that make sense? And we can go on, but spiritual powers is when you have the ability to animate something. So make sure you're animating what? Light and not darkness of this world. Thank you. So for example, you'll notice that you'll have these particular so-called celebrities and so-called movie stars or athletes and so forth. I would like to identify that as the wrong kind of light. I would look at that as being darkness. However, it does come with a form of energy. So what ends up happening, of course, is you'll see them getting endorsement deals because they can use their energy to basically cause others to be attracted to what they think is light. And it causes them to basically keep the systems going in terms of promulgating a certain food or a certain type of outfit or clothing or whatever the case may be. But it kind of like helps keep the material world going. And what you want to make sure is that when you're operating in that kind of darkness, typically you're okay with having material pump at the expense of others. And that's where civilizations tend to fall. And as we look out on the land today, typically it's a formula that causes a civilization to fall. And that formula is very simple. So you got to look at the minds of the people, and you'll see that continuously everybody is thinking about what? Money and power. Money and power. You got to look at their relationship to the most holy, the higher regions of righteousness. All right, you got to look at that. And then you got to look at the state of the environment. And right now, when we look out here, we're looking at an endangered species, so to speak, if you get what I'm saying. Birds falling out of the sky, sea life washing up on shore, no clean food, genetically modified food, clothing, nylon, polyester. If you look at these unnatural fabrics, them spraying chemicals in the sky to try to block out the sun. And in order to have a mind like that, what kind of mind would you have to have? Because if I gave you the mind of the Most Holy and I told you to go out and build on the earth, what kind of land would you have? What kind of world would you create? You would create a paradise on the earth. Is it fair to say that? But if I gave you the mind of someone who was the adversary of the Most High or the higher regions of righteousness, what kind of reality would you create? Bars on the doors, no clean food. You see what I'm saying? Scared to stop at a stoplight. Do you get what I'm saying? Dogs in the pen, dogs in the bedroom, if you get what I'm saying. Cancer, all kinds of disease and so forth, sickness. And just think about that kind of world. What kind of mind would you have to have in order to create a world like that? So the reason why I want to put together these types of videos, if you're new to the channel, what I typically deal with is esoteric and exoteric information in retrospect to how it influences cultures and so forth. So in this particular video, what we're discussing is having spiritual powers and how you can actually abuse it and woe to them to do so. So for example, earlier I used an example of someone receiving an endorsement and being able to get paid so-called millions of dollars in order to destroy millions of people. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's spreading darkness on the earth, if you get what I'm saying. And then when light shows up, the darkness comprehended it not. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is that if you receive any kind of information, knowledge, and you are starting to increase in energy, if you're starting to increase in energy, and then when you increase in energy, you now have the ability to shine light on something. So either you're shining light on darkness, or you're, which is falsehood, or you're shining light on truth. You get what I'm saying? And you're using your energy as a way to pull other people into that kind of force field, if that kind of makes sense. And that's the battle that we have going on right now. The battle is for your mind, and the civilization of deception is not taking any days off, and they're willing to use anyone that they possibly can to help them promote the filth and uncleanliness that they promote, which it continues their existence, if you get what I'm saying. So at this first degree level, which I like to identify as consciousness on the earth plane, typically you're just aware of your senses, if you get what I'm saying. So how these intruders operate, these laggards, the civilization of deception, is they want to help use you in ways to help them cause other people to be attached to those senses, because that's what locks you into the body. Does that make sense? I did a video talking about what it means to have the mark of the beast and what it means to have the mark of the Most High. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description area underneath the like button for you, because these two videos actually work together on basically exposing the sons of perdition. And that should be the primary focus right now, so you'll know what to look for. So what we're talking about is, what does it mean to have spiritual powers, and what does it mean to actually abuse those powers? So if you're receiving energy at any level, say you wrote a book, or you have a YouTube channel, and you're receiving some type of energy because now you are connecting up with other beings, of course, through the ley line systems that are established and everything. You just want to make sure that you are using things to help raise the vibration of anyone that you come in contact with, because anything that operates on the other side of that is lowering the vibration. Does that make sense? So there's a tug of war. So either we're pulling people in darkness, or we're trying to grab them out of darkness into the light, if that makes sense. And then when we have enough going on at the light plane, then we can make sure that we destroy all that does not serve the best interests of the Most Holy, and then we'll build that kingdom that will never be destroyed, that's spoken about in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, I believe it's line 44. If I'm mistaken, I'll put it up on the screen for you. But that's what this video is about. I'll keep it short. If you have any questions or comments about this subject, leave it underneath the like button in the comment area and everything like that, and we can have a dialogue about it. Maybe I'll expound on this, so we'll go over the various different degrees that there are and how you can raise your consciousness level away from the earth plane. And in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to tame the animal, because the animal is typically associated with those senses that we were talking about earlier on, if that makes sense. So when we talk about these senses, we're really dealing with what smells good, what tastes good, what sounds good, what else, the feel, all those things, the senses. So that's kind of what we're talking about right now. So when you're able to tame the animal, the best way to do that is by looking at the first 5 books in the Bible, because it actually helps you come out of the animal state, because you're now no longer thinking like an animal thinks, you're actually thinking more divine, and you have a more righteous way of conduct. So that kind of moves you and prepares you to be able to create your next form, which is the second degree that I'll get into in a different video. Okay? All right, I'll see you in the next video.